Welcome to How Good Is. Today I'm going to take a look at a character that I already have at 4 slot, because of course I do. It's Akemi Homura Haregi version. Almost wanted to make one word out of that. The Haregi Homura, or the Harehomu, or whatever you want to say about that. Bamboo Homura? Doesn't matter. The point is, we have a new Homura, and she's pretty darn fucking good. I know I've been a bit down on a lot of other Homura units that I've talked about in the past. For example, about Akemi Homura-chan, which by the way is an extremely good unit. It's just that she was an extremely good unit in just one single place, which was mirrors, specifically tournament mirrors. But I wanted a Homura unit that's good basically everywhere, because I want to be able to just say, I'm going to take this unit and I'm going to just use this unit as basically my all-rounder for everything. Doesn't matter if I do mirrors, if I do Kimochi, 100 evils, museum, or whatever you might want to do, any content that you can imagine. I just want to have a unit that's at least decent for all of those, because I don't want to think too much about my unit choices. And guess what? This unit is it. And if you are here for the too long didn't watch section, then yes, this is basically what I would say about this unit. But is there more to Haregi Homura? Let's find out. So, the discs are already pretty cool. I really like what they did with the discs. 2 Excel discs, 3 Blast discs. Now this does mean that she's a Blastius, but at the same time having 2 Excel discs, being almost as good as an Excelius. So that also already looks like she might even be able to contest the Blastius Homura spot from regular Cool Homura. Now, is she better than regular Cool Homura? I can say you right now, if we're going more into detail, yes. If you have regular Cool Homura, throw her away. This is better regular Cool Homura. Isn't that amazing? She's an attack type, who has an insane amount of attack. Now, if you look at this attack value and you think to yourself, wow, that's a lot of attack, could that even be the highest amount of attack in the game? Yes. Yes, this is the highest amount of base attack in the entire game. Even if you include attribute enhancement and spirit enhancement and all of that on top of that, it's still up there, even with all of those other effects. By the way, if you look at attribute enhancement, with attribute enhancement, all the dark units are at top, followed by the light units, because you gotta have a lot of units to be able to have good attribute enhancement. But yeah, the point is, she has really fucking good attack. My Homura's attack is somewhere around 15,800 or something, because I have a lot of dark units and a lot of dark slots. But yeah, that's a lot of attack. Now, I can tell you right away that if you have a lot of attack, like base attack we're talking about, the higher your base attack, the more important attack buffs will be, because all of the attack buffs are, of course, percentage-wise. Now, getting 10% of, let's say, 10,000 attack. It's only 1,000 attack, but getting 10% of, let's say, 16,000 attack, well, that's 1,600 attack. You're getting more bonus. You're getting more out of your attack percentage buffs the more base attack you have. So a unit like this, that has a lot of base attack, will be able to get a lot more out of attack percentage buffs. Now, could it possibly be that the personal plays into that? Of course it does. The personal gives 25% attack up, just 25% attack up. Isn't that great? You just get 20% attack up, because that's usually an effect that is reserved for 4-star Memoria. But I do like when they actually make personals good, so in this case they actually gave that effect to a 3-star Memoria, a personal, and on top of that you're also getting Excel and Peak gain up. Now, I will say right away, you're not going to use that many Excel discs probably with Haregi Homura, but if you do, and you have this personal, you get a nice little bonus out of that, so it also plays into the MP playstyle that we'll see in a second as well. Now, keep in mind that if you already have a bunch of 4-star Memoria that give 25% attack up, you probably want to use them instead, because 4-star Memoria just have higher stats, and personal being 3-star mean that it has less stats, so you're kind of missing out on, let's say, about 1,000 attack, and that's kind of sad. But if you don't have a good 4-star Memoria that has 25% attack up, this is like the next best thing, so that's pretty darn good to get that effect on there. Moving on, we have a connect now. I can tell you right away that even though I said earlier that this unit is kind of good everywhere, the places that this unit is best in are either mirrors, or ranked mirrors, probably tournament as well, I'm not quite sure yet, or Kimochi. And in both of those cases, you're not caring too much about the effects of the connect. Like, sure, in ranked mirrors and tournament mirrors, you want to get connects for like the point bonuses, but the actual effects of the connect itself are not that important unless it's specifically a connect that has great effects on it, like a heal, able to give you a bunch of more points out of the mirror scoring. But outside of that, if it's just something that increases your damage, the connect is probably not going to be that important for either Mirrors or Kimochi in this case. It just gives a bunch of damage. That said, gives a lot of damage. Like if you give this to someone who's blasting, let's say you use this connect for example in 100 evils, you give this to someone who's blasting, even better, a blast character who's blasting. Look at those bonuses, 70% blast up, 25% damage up, which means you're already hitting, you're really close to the blast damage cap already, but you get damage up on top of that, and then you get 10% element attack up on top of that. That's so many damage bonuses that are being stacked on top of each other that just turns any dark character who is blasting into an absolute killing machine. So that's pretty darn good. Moving on with the Doppel though, and you will see her actually use her Doppel despite being a blast focused character, and we'll see why in a second. But what it does, it does attribute strength and damage to all enemies, which you can see why this might be a character that is good for Kimochi. But it also does defense down. Okay, maybe not that important. Defense down is usually an effect that, yeah, you kind of like to have, but you don't need to have it really. It's okay. But more importantly, dark attack up to all allies. So on Kimochi, that buffing all with dark attack up is fucking fantastic, especially if you're dealing damage yourself, which by the way, she will do a lot of damage because, yeah, she has a lot of fucking base attack. So especially when she buffs herself with more dark attack up, she deals so goddamn fucking much damage, it's gonna be insane. On top of that, she buffs herself, only herself sadly, with damage up. It's only for 3 turns, but wouldn't it be better if it was 4 turns instead of 3 turns? But how is that possible? You'll see in a second. And then she also restores MP to all allies. Now keep in mind that this 19 is not that high, it's only a small amount, but the fact that it restores MP at all, and that it restores MP to all allies, on top of the dark MP to attack up, that's pretty darn fucking good. Like, these are like pretty good effects all rolled into one. Like, who cares that other characters like Kuroi have even more MP restore? These are just good fucking effects, right? To have on a character. Kuroi doesn't have attribute strength and damage to all enemies. She doesn't have that. But this unit does, so you can see that she does bring a whole bunch of stuff to the table when it comes to Kimochi, so you can definitely take this character into Kimochi. That is at the light type Kimochi, which I think is the Opal neck? I think it's Opal neck or something. That Kimochi is light type, so you play your dark characters. That is where this character is going to be pretty darn fucking good. Moving on to the Spirit Enhancement, we do see some really nice effects here as well. This character, this is like a kind of character that doesn't really have that many weaknesses. It's just a selection of strengths, and that's kind of what I wanted from a Homura character, you know? Because that's kind of Homura in a nutshell. I mean, she does have a weakness, but even when you take like her time stop away, she's still as strong as the strongest other character we know in the entire franchise. Isn't that great? Anyway, just blast damage up and Axel MP gain up. Like, look, they couldn't give us more blast damage up than Cool Homura, which is like 0, but at least they gave us something else on top of that. Like, hey, maybe she's not the best blaster, but you're getting some Axel MP up on top of that because we like giving you stuff. She also negates the first debuff and status ailment that you receive in a battle, which is really important for Mirrors, because in Mirrors, if you're fighting for more than 1 or 2 turns, the enemies might get some active Memoria out, and being able to protect yourself at least a little bit against enemies is really nice to be able to maybe do something about the enemy meteor rain that comes out. If you have a Mado Iro, for example, on your team, you get even more debuff shields, able to block even more debuffs on top of that, so it just keeps you safe. And even in Kimochi, some Kimochi do use some ailments here and there, so being able to negate 1 ailment might be alright. But also just outside of that, even outside of Miros and Kimochi, which is going to be pretty good, if you take her in 100 evils, like I said earlier, a unit for everything, 100 evils, isn't it fucking great to just ignore the first debuff and ailments, because there might be some stages where 100 evils enemies try to curse you, or they try to dazzle you, or they try to charm you. Never mind, she's immune to charm. And it's pretty nice to just say, you know what, I'm just immune the first time you even try it, and then you kill them, and then they can't try a second time because they're fucking dead. She also gives herself Dark Computer Attack up, which it's only 7.5%, but keep in mind, as I said earlier, with this much fucking base attack, every single piece of attack up is going to be that much more important. So the fact that you just passively gives herself that, like imagine you just roll this unit on a fresh account, you have her 1 slot, she already gained 7.5% element attack up from this, and then with her personal another 25%, you don't even have to work for any of that, you just get it. And with the base attack, you're already looking at a unit that has an insane amount of damage on like a level 1 account. That's kind of fucking insane. On top of that, She also has 3 MP abilities to make sure that she actually gets some MP, because we're looking at the doppel earlier and I told you that, hey, maybe she can actually get to that doppel. It's because, on one hand, she starts the battle with 15% MP, that's 22.5 MP. She gets 11 bonus MP every time she gets hit by a light type attack. Now keep in mind, she's not the most tanky unit, but she's at least tanky enough to tank the Opal Kimochi's attacks. She's probably not gonna die. She's definitely not gonna die from the Opal Kimochi. So she's gonna be able to tank some hits and get bonus MP. So against Kimochi, that is absolutely fantastic. And even in mirrors, depending how you play your mirrors, you might be able to like Mito Rain the enemy and then get hit by like light type attacks and get a whole bunch of MP while still surviving, hopefully. And that is also something that helps you coax out a bunch of doppels without really doing much. And if you get your turns and you use some blast, you get blast MP on top of that. Oh my god, isn't that fucking great? You also get MP for your blasts. Cool. Now, this is where we come to probably the most important part about this entire unit, and why I think this is a pretty special unit. Because so far, yeah, it's a decent Kimochi unit because the effects on the doppel are pretty darn good, while at the same time, with weak MP and these other effects being able to get to quick doppels, you can just take this unit, fire off a bunch of doppels, buff your team while doing a bunch of damage, and then getting back to doppel without getting discs. That's usually the make of a great Kimochi unit. While at the same time with mirrors, she hasn't really shown that much potential yet, other than, yeah, I guess those of being able to get to doppel or Magia at least without getting discs might be pretty fine, but she hasn't really shown her potential there just yet. Well, this is where we get to her active, and her active is just, it's a new effect that we've never seen before, and that's what makes it really interesting and what might potentially make it good for mirrors. Like, this is the kind of thing where maybe a month from now, or whenever the next ranked mirrors is going to happen, or the next mirrors tournament, people are going to actually figure out how good this effect really is, because maybe this effect isn't actually good for mirrors, but maybe it completely upends everything we know about mirrors. We kind of have to test that out. It also is a good help for Kimochi. What am I talking about? Her active is the following. Now, I said this during the news video that it gives you a buff and the enemy a debuff, and while that buff is active and the debuff is active, every buff that you place on yourself is going to be extended, every debuff you place on the enemy is extended. That's not the way it works, but you can't blame me for that, because that's simply the way that the icon looks. The icon is a red circle, and red means timed buff. This is not a timed buff. This should not be a red icon, this should be a green icon, because green icon is for one-time effects such as heal. Like, because a heal is also just a one-time effect, it just happens, okay? And this is also just a one-time effect. You press the button, something happens, and then it's done. So yeah, this should be a green button and not a red button, because red buttons for time buffs. I'm nitpicking at this point, but why is this game so inconsistent? This game is inconsistent as fuck. But yeah. Just imagine this thing is green. I'm not gonna go into my video editing software and make this button green now, but if I was a bigger YouTuber, I would do that. So what does it do? So you press this button, and when you press this button, it gives something to your allies. What does it do? Every single ally, all of their buffs, and with buffs, I mean red symbol. So if it has a red symbol, for example, you see this blast up right here, blast up, that is a red buff. You see this dark attack right here, well, this is a passive, but if it was like a timed effect, like, for example, you get it from a connect that lasts for like 3 turns of attack up, or you get it from an active memoria, or you get it from a magia. You see these? This is a red effect right here. You can take a look at that. This right here, oh, red icon. This is a red icon right here. That's a buff. This right here, that's a red icon. That's a buff. Now, if you take a look at this right here, this is also damage up, but this is a yellow icon. Yellow icons are not buffs. They're granted effects. It's a different word, okay? It might be confusing, but yellow icons are granted effects. They're not buffs. But if it's a red icon, then those buffs will get extended. They will get extended by 1 turn. So if, for example, you use that sweet doppel, you buff all your allies with attribute attack up, you buff yourself with damage up, and then on the next turn, when it comes around, you use her new special SE active. Then it will take both of those buffs and it will extend them by 1 turn for yourself, for the Homura, and it will extend the dark attribute attack up on all your allies as well. as well as every other buff. Maybe someone has buffed some attacker. Maybe you have your Mikage who buffed everyone with attack up. That gets extended. As long as it's a red buff and it's a timed effect that lasts for X amount of turns, it gets extended as soon as you press that button. And it does the same thing with all debuffs on the enemy. Now, debuffs is blue icons. If it has a blue icon, like the blue defense down, for example, that, as you would expect, also gets applied by Homura herself, that also gets extended by an additional turn. Like, it adds just one turn to the timer on that enemy if they currently have a buff on them, like any buff they currently have on them. Keep in mind, that is blue buffs. The not purple icons. Purple icons are ailments, like Curse, for example. That's an ailment. Those do not get extended, okay? Only blue icon buffs. So this is kind of a weird effect that really we're gonna just look back at in a month or whatever and be like, this was a great effect or this was a shit effect, because right now we can't really tell for certain exactly how good this effect is gonna be. But I'm pretty certain that this effect is at least gonna be something that makes you want to put this character on your team, especially for Kimochi. A lot of characters that buff your team, like Mikage, buff the team for 5 turns. Kimochi lasts 6 turns, so you can extend that to 6 turns. She also synergizes with herself, and synergizing with herself is pretty darn good for a unit, especially when it's a unit that's already pretty darn good in Kimochi. Now, when it comes to mirrors, it's hard to say, to be honest, because in mirrors you're actually gonna need some buffs and debuffs to actually happen. Now, if you have, for example, spirit enhancement actives that give buffs and debuffs, you can extend those, right? But if you're, for example, looking for Mito Rain, well, Mito Rain at fastest comes out turn 2, so you need this character to survive until turn 2, and with them having really low defense, they might be target number 1 and they might die. I don't know, but the point is, it might not be the easiest way to like keep this unit alive. But if she's alive on turn 2 and you have someone with skill quick who gets a Mito Rain out on turn 2, then it's a 2-turn Mito Rain. If it actually lands, because if the enemy has a Madoiro with debuff shield, it doesn't actually land the Mito Rain. So it's complicated, okay? It's complicated. People will actually have to figure this shit out. And I'm certain that the Mirrors community is already like theory crafting like crazy how they could make this stuff work. Because like a 2-turn Mito Rain on turn 2, that sounds pretty darn fucking good. That actually sounds kind of fucking broken, because then you don't need a second character with another Mito Rain. You can just put other shit on your other characters. And it just sounds pretty good. And also an extra turn of buffs. There might be some buffs. They're like 1-turn buffs from active Memoria on turn 2 that you might want to get, that you can extend with this as well. Like, it sounds like it could be pretty darn good, right? We just don't know yet. And we also don't know how all of the MP effects might play into fast Magia, fast Doppel. But the point is, we know she's going to be pretty darn good for Kimochi. We know she might have probably some use in mirrors, even if she's not on the top, even if she doesn't get used by whales. This is at least a unit that you can feel maybe a little bit okay with in mirrors. But even outside of that, she's gonna be doing great in 100 Evil. She's gonna be doing great in Museum, in Extermination Battles, and every single other kind of content. Why? Because she has so much fucking attack that she just kills everything you point her at, and that is usually something that's pretty darn good everywhere. While at the same time, she's able to give herself a decently quick doppel, and the doppel absolutely fucks as well, with self buffs, with team buffs, with MP restore to the entire team, and on top of that, she has an extremely unique effect that is also going to absolutely fuck in PvE. Can you imagine getting just a 2-turn Mito Rain? 2-turn Mito Rain in PvE, while also extending all of your buffs for another turn? Like, oh my god, that sounds fucking amazing. So yeah, overall she seems pretty darn good. This is the kind of Homura that I'm happy with, just putting on my team in any kind of content, and she's gonna do fine. Most people already took her on the all slot. She's not as good on the all slot as Dark Kaneki or Ashley, for example, because they have 4 blast discs. But if you ignore those, like if you don't care about how many blast discs a character has, she's also pretty darn fucking good on the all slot as well, mostly because she's pretty darn cute. Now, if you're wondering if this character is Cool Homura from the Pulamagi Madoka Magi universe, or if this character is the Muemura from the Magi Record universe, the answer is both. Read the story, guys. Moving on though, we have some Foster Memoria that I've not gotten really so far. Like, I just told you I have a 4 slot at the beginning of this video, but I got like 2 of the, or maybe even 3 4-star Memoria, like at all. Like, not 3 of both of these, by the way, just 3 between those. Like, one of this one, I think 2 of those ones. So good job, my record. Your 4-star rates for Memoria are fucking terrible. But what are these Memoria actually like? So this one is an active that gives 27.5% market damage up and 27.5 MP gain up. Now keep in mind that if you roll for this Memoria, you will probably also have the Homura unit, and Homura can extend buffs. So if you roll for this Memoria, then you probably also have that Homura. Homura extends the buffs. That's basically 2 turns on this, and that's pretty darn good. Now, it's maybe not the best Memoria to extend for an extra turn, but the whole point of this Memoria is you use this on a lineup that uses a lot of Magia, a lot of Doppel, to deal a lot of damage, and then uses MP Restore on the same turns to get that MP back. For example, imagine you had a character that specialized in dealing Doppel damage. Especially, let's imagine, for example, there's a character that deals attribute strength and Doppel damage to the enemy on Kimochi, for example. And that character that wants to use that Doppel a second time. And they give MP Restore to themselves to facilitate that second MP, that second Doppel. And let's say that, for example, that you have other characters on the team as well that also give MP to all characters, like maybe some characters that also you would use together with those kinds of characters that have the same element as those characters, like here, like maybe same element as this kind of character, like Koda, for example, who could also use MP Restore to all allies and would give MP up on Connect and something like that. If you had a lineup like that, this Memoria would actually be pretty darn fucking good, because MP Restore effects get increased by MP gain up. So you're both dealing a lot of damage with the Magia damage up, and then buffing the MP Restore to get back to that Doppel immediately. So both effects that you really need a lot of, and it has a lot of both of those effects. And let's say hypothetically you had a unit that could extend that buff for another turn, because in one turn you're probably not going to get back to Doppel. But this would make it a lot easier to get back to Doppel on the second turn if this buff lasted an additional turn, you know. So yeah, pretty darn fucking good. Moving on, we have this one right here. So this one just has a lot of stats on it, like just generally. I'm not talking about the base attack, which is also pretty darn good, but the fact that it gives 20% attack up and 15% damage increase, which together is like 35% general damage stuff, which is a shit ton. Now, there is a similar Memoria to that you might be thinking about. I think I mentioned it during the news video. It's this one, the Alicard Memoria, that gives 15% and 15%. So it's more than that. This one's 20 and 15%. This one is 15 and 15. But that said, this one gives anti-curse, and this one gives defense up. So defense up is probably not that important compared to the anti-curse. But then again, on the other hand, if you're fighting against enemies that don't even use curse, then this kind of sucks. But against enemies that do use curse, this is fantastic. But yeah, the point is that just purely for the output, this one is insane. It's probably one of the best output Memoria in the entire game. Just, you want damage? Here's fucking damage, guys. Whoops. Especially if you have a character that benefits really a lot from attack up, like any character that would benefit a lot from attack up would welcome the enemy Memoria that gives attack up together with damage up, because you need both. You need a healthy dose of both for attacking characters. So if you have any attacking character that has a lot of attack up, then a Memoria that gives both an incredible amount of attack up as well as both an incredible amount of damage up would be really happy with this kind of Memoria. And everyone who rolls for this hopefully gets a lot of this Memoria. Fucking shit, man. I need more. I need limiter codes, dude. That was that hot though. I'm done with this. Overall, fantastic. Probably one of the best gachas we've seen so far, with both the character being fucking great and both gacha Memorias being fucking great as well. And it's Homura. What else can you ask for? Hope you guys enjoyed this. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and I'll see you guys next time.